Professor Shah.
Hey, thanks, Shama. A very warm welcome and a lovely evening for those who are joining from India and for those who are with me here in the United States. A very good morning. Happy to share some of the things that we have learned over the years, both as a practitioner, heading up product management, having hired hundreds of product managers in my professional career, but also having now mentored and coached a couple hundred of them in India through these programs. I've kind of built a fair amount of insights, and so happy to share some of those as well. Since it's an Ask Me Anything session, I'd rather just not present and just open this up for questions, and then I can bring pertinent material that may support the specific question or the answer. But in the spirit of trying to make it extremely interactive, I propose that we start off with the questions right away that you have on mind. So feel free to drop your questions into the Q&A window so somebody can moderate and take a look at that. And I'm happy to kind of answer as they kind of come along.
Absolutely agree with you, Professor Shah. Audience, you can go ahead and ask your questions. You can raise your hand and I shall unmute you for asking questions. Or you can just switch on your mic and ask it by yourself. Don't shy away, guys. Make the most of this session. This is why we are here today.
I'll take the first one that I think Adarsh has asked. Adarsh, would you like to go live and ask that, or do you want me to just respond to the question you've typed it in? Okay, well, let me answer the question. First, let me repeat the question. So Adarsh's question is, he's a business analyst in a mobile development domain, with e-commerce type of industries, and have recently joined the program. So how would this program help shape in the near future, right? So first of all, congratulations for joining the program, Adarsh, and certainly look forward to interacting with you during your skill hackathons, especially the live industry projects that you will be working on. I look forward to seeing your work there and kind of giving you some feedback. But I think, like every other person who may be considering, building a career in product management, product leadership, essentially, these types of programs, for that matter, any executive education program, is providing three, distinct experiences that shape up the learning, right? And I'm going to use an analogy, Adarsh, and for the rest of you who are on the call, to make it kind of easier and simpler to digest this. It is like learning swimming, right? You need three things to really learn swimming the right way as a skill, right? First, you need the instructions. You need the theory, the framework. You need the science. You need the process of how you shift your hands and move your hands at a 45-degree angle, for example, and so on and so forth. Right? So that's the first part. The second part is you need to have a swimming pool to be able to practice that swimming. The instructions that you've learned, the knowledge that you've acquired, unless you apply, it is extremely entertainment and not really useful. It's good to feel good about some buzzwords, but unless you apply and solve real problems, that's really not a skill. That's more of knowledge, right? At best, maybe literacy. So the second part is the learning by doing. And this is where in the program you will go through every week, every month, you will have faculty sessions, faculty and mentor-led sessions where you'll be working on applying what you've learned on each module, right? So if it's user experience design, you'll actually be building a real prototype. If it is product marketing and digital marketing, you'll actually be building a real digital marketing plan. If it is product road mapping and agile, you'll be building a real roadmap for a real product in the real software or a hardware component. So all of that is the second component, which is what we call learning by doing. The third one is really the coach and the faculty observation. So going back to our swimming analogy, you've learned how to move your hands. You now have a swimming pool where you're actually swimming and practicing that swimming, but you need a coach, you need a faculty who has one-on-one attention, looking at you, and to make sure you're flapping your legs right, to make sure that your hands and the movements are actually more efficient. That is very, very crucial in experiential learning, right? And so in some sense, others, that's exactly what you should expect, that through these three different components of the program, building solid skills to be able to then demonstrate those skills. More importantly, resume-based hiring is dead. And so, everybody's resume looks great, by the way, and why not, right? Everybody knows how to put the right keywords. It's what we call keyword stuffing. But most hiring managers like us don't pay attention to resume. You need to have one, but I think what we're really looking for is a lot more experiential portfolio. Tell us what you've done. Show me proof of what you can do. And so I think these projects provide that opportunity to create a portfolio for you at the end of that 5 months, and then crack the process of the interview, or if it's moving up the ladder within your own organization, whichever path you may choose. That's kind of how that process works predictably. This is not about luck by chance, but about predictably getting there, right? So hopefully that answers your question, Adarsh.
We have a few questions in the Q&A section itself, Professor Shah. We have quite a few
Yeah,
lined up. Yes.
yeah. I'm gonna try and pick up one at a time. Absolutely. So the next one is from Anshuman. In fact, I see Madhusudan also asking a similar question. So I'm gonna combine Anshuman's and Madhusudan's question, which is, how do you switch from engineering to product management? And in the case of Madhusudan, from a QA and test engineer, to a kind of more product management career, right? So whether you are a business analyst, whether you are a product manager, an existing product owner, whether you're an architect or a QA manager, whether you're a project manager, it really doesn't matter who you are. Anyone can switch into product management. Now, what you really hence need to look at is what is the end goal from a mindset perspective. It's all about problem solving mindset, right? Your customer context, business context, and innovation context are the three most important contexts you need to have a mindset for. You need to love, you need to enjoy doing that. And so once that is established, the second part is the skill set. And so, an ICPM Flex course, as Madhusudan asks more directly, focuses on the most relevant set of skills, the most concentrated set of skills in a short 5-month period to be able to enable you to make that transition as a practicing product manager, right? And if you go to the website, and if you look at the modules, and I'll try to pull up here as well, but I certainly encourage all of you to go to the website and look at the program page. You'll find 5 specific modules, each module having 3 to 4 distinct skill topics, right? So across the spectrum, right from product management fundamentals and frameworks, to agile, to user experience design, to digital product management and marketing, to entrepreneurship, all of these modules are allowing you to what we call become a full stack product manager, right? And so the program essentially not only prepares you to play that role, but also has the whole career management cell aspect to connect you with the industry, the hiring managers, prepare you to how to crack those interviews, not just through resume, but through what we call talent hackathons. In fact, most hiring that happens now is what we call project-based hiring or challenge-based hiring. So they give you a challenge, they give you 5 days, you come back and present to the hiring manager who's in a jury, and if they like what you have to say, you get instant acceptance and offer letters and invitations to join the interview. So how do you now establish yourself from an engineering or a QA manager is exactly this, right? You go through the same 3 steps that we talked about from the experience perspective, and Flex is the most compact yet very, very effective program compared to an 18-month executive MBA program, which is also a great option by the way, for many of you. Our executive MBA programs are a little bit more holistic and integrated, where it's not just product management, but also product operations, data science and analytics, entrepreneurship, a lot of focus on leadership. And that's why it's a 3-semester, 18-month program. Whereas the ICPM Flex is compact and concise and concentrated, if you will, just to focus on product management. So it really depends on what you want to achieve. The global certification is a very, very well-recognized program. And that's kind of how it would work for you, Madhusudan and Anshuman.
Professor Shah, let's encourage the audience to ask questions live. I had seen
That'll be great.
Vinod raise his hand. Vinod, could you raise your hand again so that I can unmute you? Nope. Okay, let's take the next question, Professor Shah. They are all typing it out in the Q&A window.
Yeah.
Let's have a one-on-one discussion, guys. Professor Shah is here, especially for us. Let's make the best out of it. Come online, ask your question.
So Anshuman's follow-up question was, I only have 6 years of experience. Is that sufficient? Absolutely. Anybody with, usually even 2 to 3 years of experience is eligible for the program and for the role. The younger you are, now when I say younger, not so much by age, but by the variety of experiences that you have. And so I want to clarify a little bit here, right? The common myth is that if you have 10 years of experience, you must be a lot more senior than those who have 6 years of experience. And while that may be true in terms of biological clocks, with 10 years versus 6, I have to tell you that usually doesn't translate that much in the professional world, in the product industry. So to make it simple, the 10-year experience that I may have may very well be just 1 year of experience repeated 10 times, right? And so what that really means is that even though I have 10 years of experience, the variety that I have worked with, the exposure that I've had to different aspects of the life cycle may be very limited. And so don't worry if you have less years of experience. At the same time, don't be under the cushion, happy cushion in your mind that, oh, I have 12 years of experience, so I hence have something. You may not be as senior as you may think you are in the context of product, right? So just kind of keep that balance on both sides. For those who have 15 plus years of experience, keep that perspective. But those who only have 4 or 5 or 6, absolutely not a problem at all, Anshuman, right? So it's absolutely sufficient, more than sufficient, I would say. Okay, so until somebody speaks up, I'm just going to go read off some of these questions and answer. Somebody
just hold on for 1 second. We have Vinod raising his hand 2 times. So I want him to really come up and ask this question.
Go ahead, Vinod.
Vinod, please go ahead.
Yeah. Hello, Mr. Pinkesh. Am I audible?
Very
yes,
much.
Yeah. So my question is, once we have decided to be a product manager, so how do we choose the industry or the sector and also the company for which we should work for? And what are the parameters to make the right decision?
Great question. So I think first important thing to consider is that once you have the skills, the next 2 important things that people look for when you are getting hired or when you are looking at prospective companies is a fitment on the leadership IQ as well as the domain, right? So in fact, there are 3 bubbles. Let me share my screen, and it may become a little easier to visualize what I'm about to say here. Okay, so I'm hoping that you guys are able to see my screen. So hiring managers are looking at really 3 lenses, right? And so the middle one is the one we've been talking about, which is how do you build the necessary functional skills, right? And when I say functional skills, I mean, specifically, let me open up an example of a functional skill here. So these are 25 competencies that every global product manager really needs to build, right? It doesn't matter whether you work at Microsoft or whether you work at Flipkart or whether you work at John Deere or whether you work at Bosch or whether you work in Apollo Hospital. If you are a product manager or a product management professional, you really need to have decision-making capabilities centered around 5 specific category of skills. And those 5 category of skills are on the screen, so many of you can take a copy of it. I'm sure this diagram is also on the website, so spend some time on the website to read more about it, right? And the words are self-explanatory in some sense because it's market analysis, strategic planning, product planning. How do I make that product in the best possible budget with the right Scrum methodology, with the right project management, right? All of that happens in product planning. Then you have strategic planning, which is how big is the market? How much money will we be making? What should the price and the monetization strategy for this particular idea? Market analysis, as you see in the dark blue, is all about who's the customer, what's the problem, why should we solve it, what's the alternative to this problem, and many other aspects of the market that you have to understand. So now that we understand that these are the skills and the competencies of what one needs to have, going back to our earlier conversation, which is the question that was asked, is 3 lenses. So what we talked about is really this lens right here is the functional skills. In the case of product management, all those 25 skills that we talked about. But however, you also have leadership. How well can you communicate? Can you tell a great story? You may have lots of data, but can you tell a great story, right? Domain skills is the second one on the right, which is if I am from the automotive domain, I'm more likely to be able to make that transition from Bosch to Tata Motors. However, if I'm in the Tata Motors domain in the company, for me to make that shift to Flipkart might be slightly harder. Absolutely possible. Thousands of people have made those transitions. But I just want to let people know on the call that you need to have an aggregate score across all 3 to get selected. It's not just because you're good in the middle that the other 2 will not be looked upon, right? And so if you're low on domain, in other words, you want to go from a Bosch to a Flipkart, right? Flipkart being an e-commerce company, Bosch being an automotive company. Well, you better be a 9 out of 10 on leadership and a 9 out of 10 on functional, right? So that your aggregate score still comes out ahead. Yeah. So hopefully that gives some perspective on how Vinod, you need to stage this in your own career path. So first is skills. Absolutely, first build the skills. And like I said, skills is not the same as literacy or awareness. In fact, executive education, I'm sure you have seen this chart before. This is just how humans operate, right? At a very psychological level, there are 4 layers of learning. Every learner on the planet, right? Whether you are a project manager or a business analyst, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we all learn new things. Everything from Chinese cooking, which by the way, I'm going through right now in my personal life, to data science and product management, let's say. We all go through 4 levels, right? And so make sure that you understand that when we say the word skill, that does not mean passing some exam, getting some 3-letter certification and calling yourself skilled at it, right? That's literacy. So you have awareness, you have literacy, and then you have skills at the innermost layer, right? Innermost layer. So this is very important for all of you to understand. So when we say skills, make sure that you not only know, not only do you have the buzzwords and to talk and have conversations, which is what literacy is all about, but have the demonstrable proof that you can apply that knowledge in a given problem context, and you've done this n number of times, and here is what that looks like, right? So just want to kind of add that on for you, Vinod. Going back to your question, really 3 things to focus on, leadership skills, functional skills, domain skills.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. British. That answer really helps. And my other question is that I also seen that a lot of freshers are also being hired by the Fortune companies for the product manager role. So I want to understand why do they do so and on what basis? Or are they looking for some kind of fresh young talent or young minds? Or like this?
Simple answer, Vinod, is supply and demand. We have 1.8 million product managers in the world and only 65,000 in India. Huge deficit, huge demand for product managers, product marketing managers, product designers in India. And so when the talent pool is so small, of course, anyone who knows even little bit is going to get hired right now, right? Including freshers, including senior folks, including people with 20 years of experience who've done nothing in product management for 20 years and are now shifting into product management. They're finding great opportunities. The demand is so high and it's going to continue to remain this way for the next 15, 20 years, right? Because Silicon Valley has already seen this. In the United States, we've seen this whole thing go in the last 15, 20 years. So it's almost like what project management was, if you pay attention to how project management kind of grew, very rapidly in the last 15 years, product management is going to be that for the next 15 to 20 years. So whether you're a fresher or not, there's so many opportunities right now, Vinod. And so, yes, they're also going to get a fair share of that opportunity.
Okay. And going back to my first question, I just wanted
I'm
to
sorry
add
to
on.
interrupt you, Vinod. I'm really sorry, but we have so many more questions that we have to take. But hang on till the end. If we have the time, we can answer. Or again, I repeat, you can take your one-on-one session with Professor Shah anytime. So we'll get to that. Professor Shah,
Yeah,
please
yeah,
take
sure.
the other question in the Q&A section.
Sure. Happy to answer, Vinod, your questions perhaps in the end or offline. Not a problem, right? So, I'm just kind of reading through, unless somebody wants to go live and ask the question, um, I can kind of pick the next one on the list.
Yes, we have Ismail going live now.
Okay. Hey, Ismail.
Please go on, Ismail.
Hello. Basically, the question is like I just wanted to understand the difference between like ICMP and the master program. First thing. Second thing is like how it will be like for like experienced professional, for example, 14 plus years. How we are going to support for the senior product management level kind of roles, and how it will be helpful. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Got it. So, and let me do this in a live way. So I think all of you can also follow the question that he has been asking. So let me share my screen one more time. And all of you can follow along as well, right? So this is the first program I think that you were referring to, Ismail, which is more of an executive MBA in product leadership, right? And I think the second program that you were offering, that you were talking about, was the ICPM Flex, which is the 5-month global certification program that I think we're referring to here as well. Now, the reason I'm putting both of this up so that we can kind of compare and contrast a little bit for you, so you also have a perspective to look at. But study this on your own. As all of you are online, you can also go to the website and check this out. I think the biggest difference, let me first tell you before we talk about the difference, the faculty is the same, the course curriculum topics are same for both programs. The rigor is the same. So it's pretty much similar in nature. The biggest difference comes in three ways, right? First, the executive MBA program, is a campus-based program that requires you to be there for your weekend immersions, for your monthly immersions every weekend, right? And these campus locations are San Francisco, Houston, Bangalore, Pune. So you have to pick one, and you can now attend classes face to face. The faculty flies down So I fly down to India all the time to take classes and so on and so forth, right? So that's kind of the biggest difference. Whereas the ICPM Flex is campus free. So while the ICPM Flex also has faculty sessions, in fact, you can see the curriculum here and the topics that you see. They also have assessments, they also have case study and projects, they also have clinic sessions, but everything is over a video conference model, just like we are right now going through, in this particular call, right? Of course, with a lot more high fidelity, video conferencing capability, right? So that's the biggest difference. One is campus, second is campus free. Second big difference is the scope. The scope of the ICPM program is focused on 5 modules in 5 months. The focus for executive MBA is 18 months, and as you could guess, there's a lot more courses. Obviously that the time would allow us to cover, right? And so you have almost 22 different course modules that gets covered in this 18-month period, whereas in the 5-month period you have 5 course modules, right? So it's a subset of the executive MBA program, right? ICPM Flex is like a subset of the bigger program, right? So that's the second big difference that you see. The third big difference, for some of you that matters, some of you it may not, is the executive MBA is a UGC accredited, in the Indian context, a UGC accredited degree program. So you need to have a bachelor's because this is a formal master's program. But once you do this program, you can actually do PhD in 140 countries around the world because it's a formal master's program, a government approved, UGC accredited, government approved program. Whereas the ICPM Flex is a global certification program, almost like a diploma program, not a degree program, like a PG program, but with also a University of Houston, Bauer College of Business accreditation. So it's also globally recognized, but you can't do a PhD after this, for example, because it's not considered a formal degree program, right? So that's the fundamental difference between the two. Amongst other smaller nuances here and there, of course, the cost is very different. This is a lot more cost effective in terms of the investment of dollars that you put in. I think this program is roughly about $1,400 or $1,500. $1,599, whereas the other program is roughly about 8.5, 9 lakhs. And so it may come out to about $15,000, right? And so that's the difference between the two as well from a investment. But other than that, faculty remains the same. The curriculum remains the same. The rigor remains very similar. Even though it's a live program, right? Does that make sense? Uh, did I answer your question correctly?
Yeah, partially we can say, but still I am looking for, like, see, for example, if we go for the certifications course, how it is going to, like top management level or a senior level, how it will help. For example, if I like, see, for example, how with the certifications, how that community helps to grow to the senior management level and next director level kind of things.
Yeah, so the way this works, Ismail, as you know this already as a working professional, is that at the end of the day, what is the delta? How much more are you better than the person next to you, right? And in that context, do you have demonstrable skills that you can show in a portfolio that, look, I know how to do lean product management. I know how to do design thinking. I know how to prioritize and create roadmaps. I know how to prototype and build high fidelity wireframes. All of these capability is what allows you to move up into leadership roles. Leadership roles cannot be just claimed just by time, which is a very engineering way of looking at it, right? That, look, I spent 10 years here, I get promoted, and then I spend another 5 years, I get one more promotion. By the time you get to even director, it is like 20 years of your life is over. That's not the case in product management. We have seen, people in vice president of product management roles at the age of 30, We have seen people at a 5-7 years of experience already become a director, right? So it's not time bound. Leadership roles in product industry are more scope bound. Can you create impact? Have you shown the ability to create influence and impact? And that's what these programs are helping you to build that necessary skill, Ismail, to be able to get to that level faster. On your own, based on time, you may also get there, but you'll be able to get there 10x faster, right? Because you have the necessary vocabulary, the skill set, the ability to demonstrate and prove that you are capable of doing things, right? So that's kind of how this helps. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense.
Let's take the next question, Professor Shah, from the Q&A window. If you find anything really interesting, let's take it out. Although we have a few of them lined up to go online.
Super. No, I'll try to answer every single question, whether it's interesting or not. It doesn't matter. If it's a question, I will definitely try to answer every one.
Certainly.
Okay, so Vinod's question is, once I decide to become a PM, how do I choose the industry sector or the company? I think we talked a little bit about this, Vinod. My recommendation is first move into the role in the same industry. And once you spend a year or two, then move out into the same role in a different industry, right? So let me give you a simple example to make sure you understand this. So let's say I'm a project manager at Bosch, and I want to become a product manager at Microsoft. Now that's a very different company, very different domain, very different industry. Now there are two ways of doing it, right? First, I go from being a project manager or an engineering manager at Bosch to jump straight into a product management role in a Microsoft. Absolutely doable. Hundreds of people have done it. Many of our own alumni in the context of the institute here have done it. You should check out some of the success stories and even talk to them, right? So you can get the inspiration, you can get some feedback and some tips on how to do it. But it has been done many times. However, the option two, which is what I recommend, is step one, go from being a project manager in this example from Bosch to a product manager in either Bosch or a company similar to Bosch in the same domain. The next jump you make, once you're already a product manager in a Bosch or let's say a Tata Motors, now you become a product manager at Microsoft should be your next jump. So take two short jumps instead of one long jump. Right? That would be my recommendation. Hopefully that answered your question, Vinod. Okay, the next one I see is from Kalpesh. If you're having products, for example, having a lot of variants, to see how all channel is working, where the product is stuck, so that any software regarding this. So this is more so a specific portfolio management question, Kalpesh, than product management careers, which is the topic and the theme today. If I can maybe set up a separate time, or if you can share the specifics of the question, I can answer this more elaborately post this session here. But the short answer is the software that you want to look for that helps you, the skills that you want to build that helps you with this problem is called portfolio management. And there are lots of techniques. The classic BCG, which is in the early 80s, we've had the Boston Consulting Group framework, which allows you to map all your products in a 2x2 grid and then kind of make decisions on which variation of which product should I keep, or should I shut down, or should I create, right? The more modern one is called the GE McKinsey model. If you do a quick Google search, you'll find lots of good material on YouTube, but search for GE McKinsey model. It's a great portfolio management technique to manage versions of products when you have variants of that, right? Especially when you have different routes to market and go to market. So hopefully that will give you some pointers, Kalpesh, to get started.
Professor Shah, I'm going to unmute Ranjana now. Ranjana, please go ahead and ask your question.
Thanks, Shama. Very good morning, Pankesh.
Good.
I want to make a career switch in role as well as domain. So how do I showcase the understanding of the domain as I would not have any experience to do so?
very tough to showcase work in domain unless you spend some time analyzing and reading and understanding that domain, right? So I would say step one, first try to demonstrate your skills.
Okay.
Pricing is a skill. So whether I price a packet of juice, or whether I price Uber's app, or whether I price Microsoft's new software, it's pricing, right? So that's a skill. It's independent for most part. It's independent of the industry, right? So first step I think you should take, Ranjana, is to, like I said, take a short jump. First, become a product leader, product manager, whatever title people use, but I'm using the word product management in a role context, right? You know, there are different fancy titles: product owner, senior product specialist. In fact, India, you have even more creativity in titles. I'm sure all of you are more, familiar with. So I'm not referring to titles. I'm referring to the role, right? So first, get into that role, and I think then spend a year or two in that domain to learn more about that domain, to talk to customers of that domain, to understand the words and the vernacular and the vocabulary, perhaps attend some trade shows, go to some online, offline conferences, immerse yourself in that domain, and then make the second shift to the respective domain that you want to. But it's very hard to teach domain in a class, Ranjana. And a lot of people may make a claim that we have this, specific domain, specific class and all. In my view, having been in the industry for now 18 years, having been in the, coaching and mentoring and education world, helping in the last 7 years, I don't think domain is teachable. Domain has to be experienced and felt and immersed in. So that would be my recommendation. And it's possible, but it just takes time for you to personally immerse yourself in the respective domain.
So you mean change the role in the same domain and then take the next step eventually?
Absolutely. And then keep the same role in step
Yeah.
two, but change the domain.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Bindu?
Okay, good. I like the fact that I didn't have to use any of my slides, and we're actually having a more candid conversation one-on-one. This is the best form of AMA.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We have Bindu next, sir, asking you.
Hi, Pinkesh. I'm Bindu here.
Hey,
And
Bindu.
yeah, so I have a bit diverse background. So
Hmm.
I have some 8 years of software industry experience. I was a QA and automation engineer, mostly into wireless LAN testing and mobile testing, Nokia and Motorola. After that, I went into, I started my own e-commerce venture. It was an e-commerce platform for organic products. I ran it for 5
Very
years.
nice. Very
And
nice.
I exited it actually. I sold it off to someone, exited it. In the meantime, I did 18 months of data science course, MSc in data science through upgrad. So now I am looking for actually that now I realize when I'm applying for jobs, I realize coding is not my strength. It was because all these while last, so I was never into coding actually. So now at this, after 15 years, starting to code, I have to compete with freshers. I mean, I'm
Why do
bit,
you want to do that? My question is, uh, I don't think you should. I don't know why you want to go back to coding with so much experience, with so much diversity of work that you have done. I would say your next step should not be about coding. Your next step should be about managing the code, managing the technology, managing, if you
okay.
have a background in data science, data-driven decision making is one of the hottest fields right now. In fact, you may hear about a title that is very popular these days called data product manager, right? So, here is the funny thing. A data product manager gets paid 40% more, than a conventional product manager. And a product manager gets paid 56%
Hello,
more
sorry.
than a
Okay.
conventional engineer, right? So you can
Okay.
imagine. So at this point, my recommendation is become a data product manager, and don't compete with a pool of people, potentially with what we call the one-third curse. I don't know if you guys have heard about the one-third curse. So if you haven't heard, let me quickly explain. So a one-third curse is the following, right? So let's say if I'm the hiring manager, and if I find somebody who is only 1/3 of the skills that you have, right? And is available at 1/3 your price at the same time. And I may say, yes, that's good enough for me. So you want to stay away from the 1/3 curse. Let that 1/3 curse not impact you, because otherwise you will be competing with a lot of freshers, a lot of
Yeah,
younger,
that's where I am actually
early
a bit
stage, right?
confused.
And
And what is the way
financially,
forward for me for me?
product management is the way forward. Very simple. You've already
Yeah.
done entrepreneurship, which means you probably intuitively, ad
Mm-mm.
hocly,
Yeah.
intuitively done product management, right?
Correct.
Product
Yeah.
positioning,
Yeah. Right.
pricing,
Yeah.
value proposition, marketing.
Mm-mm.
Put some structure, put some rigor, structure, vocabulary. See, there's one way of cooking, which is intuitive cooking. And there's another way to actually go learn and
Formal
become a
way of,
absolutely go to a culinary school and learn formal cooking, so you become the world's best master chef, right? So both are cooking, and nothing is wrong with the first way of cooking,
Okay.
but except that if you want to now grow, intuitiveness and ad hocness may not help you as much. It's not as predictable. It's hit and
Okay.
miss. It's a
So,
trial and error way
so
of
which
doing it. So
course you would recommend me in, as part of?
so, I don't know enough about where you are in terms of, so maybe share your resume, or if you have a LinkedIn profile offline,
Sure.
let me study this a little bit and then give you a proper recommendation.
Sure. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But take a look at lots of good courses, lots of good programs all around. I
Okay.
mean, ISP has a very good course. Obviously UC Berkeley has a very good program on product management also.
Okay.
So there are lots of good options.
Okay.
Institute of Product Leadership, hosting me here today, has
Okay.
some great options. So take a look at it. But if you tell me a little bit more in a separate conversation, maybe
Sure.
send me
Yeah.
an
I'll ping
email.
you in, I'll connect you
Yeah,
with LinkedIn. Yeah.
yeah,
Thanks a
yeah.
lot. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay. I see. I know we're kind of running out of time now, Shama, right? I see that Pramod and Sai had asked two questions. So if you think it's okay, I can kind of take one or two questions from Sai's list and Pramod's list, and then maybe take it more offline as you guys suggest. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so I think Sai's question is, I mean, Sai has four different questions, but if I try to pick one or two and summarize it, the scope of the PM role down the line, and the second is, will the program cover both product management and product marketing? So let me answer the second one, which is absolutely yes. See, to me and to most senior leaders in the country, in the world, product management is not different than product marketing. Yes, there are two different titles and potentially two different organizations, but they have to work very, very closely, right? And so a product manager has to have an inbound approach, which is bringing the feedback of the customer back into the company and executing the roadmap. Whereas the outbound product manager is the one who takes the product that's already built and now take it to the market, right? That's why it's called outbound product management. These both go hand in hand. If you notice, the program curriculum has very specific modules on product marketing, product management, even agile, which is more specific to Scrum and development methodology on how do you tell an engineer what to build. What are the best practices on kind of communicating that? How does the life cycle of development work? It's very important. You are not coding, but you're working with people who are engineering this. You're working with construction folks who are building it, right? And so as a CEO, as a mini CEO of the product, you better understand outbound product marketing as well. And so that's why it's an integral part. Even if you don't like it, you don't have to make a profession out of it, but you need to be aware of the concepts so that you can interlock with them a little better. Now, the program also has flexibility. This, going back to the specific ICPM program question that you asked, you can electively choose not to go for that module. In the 5 month, you have some limited choices, but you also can do electives. So you can say, look, I already know this course because I already have done Agile, for example, and I want to skip the whole Agile module. You absolutely can, right? You take the proficiency test to establish that you know the subject, and if you clear that test, you don't have to go through that module. So now you can, instead of finishing this in 5 months, you can finish this in 4 months, right? For example. So yes, you also have that capability in the program to kind of pick and choose in certain constraints. Of course, everything is not pick and choose, but there are certain constraints in which you can kind of electively choose not to do it or de-emphasize it if that's not your interest area, right? So hopefully that Sai gives you a little bit of background. And I think Pramod's question, by the way, the other part of Sai, your question on product leadership versus product management. Product management, as the word suggests, is managing the cycle of the entire product business, right? Right from the idea to validation, to pricing, to packaging, to messaging, to branding, till it makes money and sustainably repeats, right? So that's the whole life cycle. Whereas a product leader is a cross-functional specialist, somebody who knows product management, but also knows data science and decision science and using data to make better decisions, also has leadership skills, also has strategy skills, also has finance skills, right? And so product leader is somebody who's a little bit more senior, has a much bigger picture than a product manager, right? So that's kind of usually how the difference between the two, is characterized. And I think the last question for Pramod, that Pramod has asked, I've got 18 years of experience, says Pramod, and I want to kind of move into product management role from an individual contributor role. And my question is about so you're joining a team with a whole bunch of 10 to 15 years of product management experience. How can the ICPM Flex help me? I mean, you already answered the question in your question, right? If you're dealing with a set of people who already have the context, already have the vocabulary, already have the context of how you make decisions and frameworks, but you better be part of that gang, understanding that vocabulary, right? So ICPM Flex is probably the fastest way to build real skills, not only to be able to match with who they are. That's not the only criteria for your growth, but to be able to grow in your own role within the organization as well, right? So think of this as a very fast catalyst. Yes, there is YouTube and Coursera and Udemy and Upgrad and many of these courses which are more video-based learning, and you can, yes, learn a lot of these things on your own, but it's a catalytical effect, right? If you have time and you want to do trial and error, I think that's a good option. But video-based learning is just video-based learning. In my opinion, it's like the swimming example. Getting instructions for swimming is only a very small part of the outcome. You need to have a swimming pool to practice it, and you need to have a live faculty to continuously one-on-one watch you, interact with you, shape you, guide you. So I think unless you have all of these three things, learning becomes fairly incomplete, in my opinion, right? In the opinion of hundreds of others. So I would say, hence, ICPM Flex is probably a better bet for you to quickly bridge that gap. And it's possible to do that, Pramod.
We are so happy today to see such a great response, Professor Shah. But I will go ahead and unmute Dr. Satish Arya. Let's see what he has to ask us. Dr. Satish, please go ahead.
Good evening, sir. How are you doing?
Hey, Dr. Satish, how are you?
Thanks to God, sir. Everything is fine. Sir, only one query. The query is, these ICPM Flex is self-paced or maybe a blended course is one thing. Is the short term, like 5 months kind of thing, which will make as a two, because you need to compete with the people who are having with similar capabilities, maybe from different organizations as well. I mean, maybe you mentioned ISB and other things. Then will these be sufficient to compete with these people, or purely depending on the skill you will show the path?
I think it's fairly enough to compete, Dr. Satish, with anybody in this world, right? Because what happens is that even though it's 5 months, it's fairly concentrated and it's fairly curated, I would say, more than concentrated, more curated. So you can learn something in 20 days, but with the right instructions, with the right, experiential learning, you can kind of finish that in 20 days, compared to 20 days, you can finish that in 5 days as well. Now, part of it is also you and your ability to absorb, your ability to kind of, implement and apply. But what it does, it allows you to get an even footing with any global product manager, irrespective of whether they're from ISP or UC Berkeley. It doesn't matter. You are now going to be at an even footing with another practicing product manager. Like I said, the difference between ICPM Flex, which is 5 months, and some of the other longer 2-year programs, including the question that was asked, the 18-month executive MBA, for example, is that this one is focused on product management, product marketing, product design, product operations, right? All of that. Whereas the 18-month or a 2-year program will have more time and hence more things like leadership, like data science and analytics, which you will not have in the ICPM Flex, right? So that's the only delta. But other than that, I think short answer is absolutely. It should allow you to head to head, and it's not a video based. Going back to your other question, the first question, no, this is not a video based, self-paced. Yes, there are videos, and yes, there are libraries given to you, but every week there is a class with a real faculty and a real skill mentor, who are practitioners themselves, right? There are assignments and assessments, which says, hey, look, if you don't finish the right requirements, if you're not satisfactorily producing the right artifacts or outcomes, but you're not going to go to the next level. And there are some, I'd say more than some, I think about 20-30% of the class sometimes takes longer than 4 weeks to finish a module because it's flex. So once you finish the first module, it opens and unlocks the next. Once you finish that, it unlocks the third one, and so on and so forth, right? So unless you have a satisfactory demonstration to the faculty with continuous back and forth coaching and feedback, we don't want you to just in a hurry go to the next level and just finish this and get a certificate. That's not the intent, of this learning experiential model. Hopefully that answers your question, Dr. Satish.
Thank you, sir. May God bless you.
Sure. Super. So
We
back to
have
you, Shama. And
yes,
I know
just 4 minutes left to the session, Professor Shah. And I know we have not answered a few questions, but product management is not a subject that you can get answers to within an hour. And audience, hence we have made various platforms available to address all your queries. Reach out to us on our website for detailed information on the ICPM Flex program. You can also email us on engage@ipl.edu.in. But most importantly, please scan this QR code to have a one-on-one session with Professor Pinkesh Shah. He will answer all your queries, definitely. And Professor Shah, coming to the end of the session. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the time, for taking time off your busy schedule to share your valuable insights. It has been an amazing session today. We have had a lot of people asking questions and we have answered quite a few. It was a great pleasure having you here. Thank you once again.
Likewise, and I know it's kind of very late there in India, so I appreciate a lot of you showing this enthusiasm, showing the passion.
Great enthusiasm.
So this is good deal, and I wish all of you the very best. Trust me, the mountain looks very high when you are at the base of the mountain. And so don't get overwhelmed by a lot of these things. Once you start doing it, the trick is to get started, right? I think the trick is to, however small or large you want to bite, the key thing is to start biting, start the process of learning, whichever format makes sense for you, whichever place makes sense for you. My recommendation is have a bias for action, especially if you are 7+ experience person listening to this. Don't waste too much time in analyzing this, which I often see with folks in India, especially Southeast Asia. A lot of analysis, a lot of paralysis through analysis happens, and you lose valuable time. If it's this, start this. If it's not this, something else, start that. But my recommendation is have a bias for action. It's the perfect time to upskill and reskill yourself. And product management is not just for getting into the role of product management as a title. The reason an engineer becomes VP of engineering is not because of engineering skills. Let me repeat, this is kind of, slightly controversial, but important to understand. The reason an engineer grows up to become a VP of engineering is not necessarily because of engineering skills. It is because of the customer context, business context, and innovation context that he or she develops above and beyond the engineering skills to make him or her a VP or an SVP. That's exactly what product management skills. So don't think that product management skills is only to get into a product management title. It is absolutely crucial to see the lens of the customer, to see from the lens of the business. And that's what product management is all about for growth in your own vertical. If you want to run in support and you want to remain in support, that's absolutely fine. This is still relevant, right? So keep that perspective and wish all of you the very best. Stay safe, stay home, and stay skilled. Hopefully, I'll get a chance to interact with some of you a little later as well. So wish you all the best.
Thank you everyone for joining in and making this session a huge success. And like Professor Shah said, let's upskill and reskill. Thank you, Professor Shah, for this amazing session. Have a great day ahead.